Mr. Lastly here, and thank you for tuning in for episode 7 of our at-home science. Go ahead and let me get ready real quick because I need my safety jacket on for today, and I'm gonna need my goggles, and I even brought a couple extra items because this one I don't want you to try at home unless mom and dad say, let's do it. It looks awesome. So you will need some gloves. You will need a jacket on to protect your skin for today. And we are going to need, that's right, you guys know, our safety goggles. So let's go ahead and get those on, get ready for today because I want to take a trip with you. That's right, taking a trip with you because I want to talk about this today. I want to talk about air. And this one is going to be cool, so make sure you guys watch close and you are participating in our science lesson for today. Now, when we talk about air, I want to talk about air in different places because when we started our bus trip, we start below the mountain. And the air down here is kind of cooler. It's a nice spring day, but if we talk about where the sun is at, because the sun's out, okay, and that air above the mountain is different from the air below, but I want to talk about it today. So as we take that trip up the mountain and our sun, we get closer to it when we rise up in elevation, and as we're taking that trip, I want to zoom in now here. And I want to zoom in here. Now, when we talk about our air molecules down here, air is a gas, right? Now, we have our air molecules and we've talked how they're spread out, right? But when air's cooler, they're kind of close together. Can you guys see that? Okay, perfect. Now, when we start going up the mountain, we made our first turn and we came around the bend, and now we're here. Like those maps that say, hey, you are here. When we're here, our air might be a little more spread out, okay? So our air molecules, if they're being heated up, they're spreading out more and more and more. Now, when we keep going up to the mountain and say we're really close to that sun that's heated up our air, I now want to zoom in here to what our air molecules will look like. And our air molecules are spread out really far apart and they're moving around like crazy because they're hot. So here's what I want to talk about today. I want to use fire again. That's why I brought my gloves. That's why I said don't do this unless mom and dad say, whoa, that's cool. Make sure that we do that at home, but you don't have to for today. We're also going to need a pair of scissors. We're gonna need our lighter, and I brought some tea bags. That's right, some tea bags that aren't used. So they're brand new, and I know it's really hard to waste good tea. This is one of Mr. Lastly's favorites. It's called Sweet and Spicy, but in the name of science, sometimes we have to make sacrifices, right? So today, your first job as we talk about air is we are going to cut towards the top of our tea bag, and we're going to make sure we cut on both sides. There we go, Mr. Lastly. And we don't need the tag. We don't need anything inside of our tea bag. So that's right, we're going to dump it all out. So check it out. Here's my tea. Everyone's some awesome tasting tea on the ground of Mr. Lastly's garage. But this is so worth it today. Now, I put my fingers inside of my tea bag and I made sure that, hey, there's a space inside of it. And we've talked about in math our cylinders, so I'm going to shape it the best that I can, my tea bag, into a cylinder. But I don't want to do this just once with you guys today. I want to do it as many times as I can because some of you, most of you, might not be doing this at home, especially because we have fire in the science lesson today. So I want you to make sure, only if you're at home with mom and dad or grandma and grandpa and they say, let's do it, Mr. Lasso is going to get his trash can so he doesn't keep making a mess in the garage. But we're emptying out our tea bags. That's our first step. Now, I want you to make an observation. Now, scientists, they observe things. They look at them and they study the things that they're using. And I want you to pause your video here after you have your tea bag emptied out. And I want you to observe, what are some things that you're noticing about that tea bag? Is it dense? Is it really light? I wonder, is it a solid, a liquid, or a gas? What else do you guys notice? Pause that video. I'll see you back here in a second. Clean up the ground and the trash that's on it. To be a good neighbor. To be a good... Oh, you guys are back? Okay, awesome. Now we have our tea bags and they're emptied out, and we were observing as scientists what those tea bags were like, right? And they are a solid, but they're a really not so dense solid, right? And we are going to be doing something awesome today, because earlier we were talking about air. And it's kind of a hard thing to be able to see when air heats up and expands if we don't do science to prove it. So our phenomena today is air and how it expands, and we're going to be observing what happens when air expands. So I'm going to set up my tea bags into that cylinder, right? We're shaping it the best we can into a cylinder. And then, I might need to do some trimming to make sure that my cut is straight. There we go. And I'm going to set them up so they're standing vertically on a hard surface. Now, I had a plate, so make sure that we don't do this inside either. Now, I know, tomorrow's supposed to be rainy and cloudy, which kind of stinks to be able to go outside and enjoy the beautiful weather with some science. But a little bit of rain isn't gonna hurt you guys. So make sure I'm doing this out in my garage where it's a safe place, it's a controlled environment, and I have this guy, my fire extinguisher, and hang on just a second, I have some water, just in case I need to put out a fire, right? So here we go, I'm ready, I'm set. Oh no! All right, you guys, here's the finale for our at-home science. This is episode 7, and we're talking about what hot air looks like and what hot air does. So down here, we talked about cooler air and how the molecules are closer together. But as we heat up our air and we get closer to the sun's our source of heat, right? And our air molecules start spreading out little by little. Now, I have my welding gloves on, and these gloves protect you from any sort of heat. So I'm not going to burn my hands. I'm keeping them nice and safe right now, but I want you to check this out, and then I might even put it into slow motion. But I want to know why this is happening. Here we go. Our science is starting. Give me a countdown. 3, 2, 1. I'm lighting the top of my tea bags. Let's see if I can get all the way down the line before they start. Whoa, there goes 1. There goes 2. Oh, that is so cool. Do you guys see this? They're floating up to the ceiling. there's two reasons that this happened for today. And we were showing that hot air rises all the way up until it's out of fuel, right? And there's something that this reminds me of. They were at Woodland Park Elementary School. If you guys remember it, towards the beginning of the year, we had hot air balloons out at the school. And they filled that balloon full of hot air from a flame, right? And those hot air balloons started to float. Because when we fill that balloon full of hot air, the air on the outside's cooler, right? And hot air, wait a second, let's think about density. Is hot air less dense or more dense than cool air? Go ahead and pause your video. I'll see you back here in a second. But inside of the tea bag is where that hot air was, right? Because that fire was creating hot air inside of the tea bag. When we have an open cylinder like our tea bags were, on the outside of our cylinder, so if Mr. Lossley's in the cylinder, on the outside of me is that cold air, right? But on the inside of me, if Mr. Lossley was on fire, it would start to lift me up. Because if Mr. Lossley was less dense, don't get me wrong, Mr. Lossley's a pretty dense person, but I would start to float if Mr. Lossley was the tea bag because that hot air is less dense and it rises up. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed episode 7 of our at-home science, and thank you guys so much for doing science with me online. Here's how I think we should end it. We've began our at-home science just like this. We have one more week. So we might have one more episode. We'll see how we do with this episode for today. Bye, guys. Have a great rest of your day.